Hey guys, I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that Surewinder is still selling amazing products. Some of you guys have been dragging your feet for whatever reason. If your shoulder hurts, do not waste time. Pull the trigger. I just bought 4 or 5 of them, and we had 2 guys out. You know how much it cost me to pay for 2 guys being out with bad shoulders? We just pulled the trigger and we said, listen, everybody's going to have one on a truck. It's mandatory. You got to use it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait till your guys go down. It's going to cost you more. Buy a Surewinder.
What's up, guys? Ryan here, Torsion Talk podcast. I've got a couple announcements before we dive in. And if you're ready, let's rock and roll. First things first, you already know, talk about it all the time. Either you're tired of it or you're jacked up about it. But we have the summit coming up in Puerto Rico, March 16th through the 18th, and you will not want to miss it. Matter of fact, we have pricing going up today while we're recording this podcast. So if you're listening to this, you missed it if you hadn't signed up already, but prices will go up again. We're going to continue to raise prices as we get closer. We signed up 6 people in 2 days trying to get that lower price. That is incredible. Super excited about it. That leaves us with approximately, I think, 14 seats left. And it's in March. It's already April or August. So we're going to sell out fast. Make sure you do not wait. If I sell out, here's my deal. I am working on getting Gary Chapman, who is a world famous author and counselor for marriages. He wrote the book, The 5 Love Languages. You might be familiar with that. Helped a lot of people stay married. This event has a lot of spouses coming to it. And I told people that I have an in with him, and people are jacked. So I got a lot of people trying to sell out the event for me so that we can get him there to speak. And so keep that in mind if you or your spouse want to attend an event together. I know your spouse may not be interested in garage doors or interested in hanging out with garage door guys and hearing about garage doors even more than they do now. But this would be a great opportunity, even if they attend that one session with you and they get to hear Gary Chapman, and one little thing could change your marriage forever. It's already more difficult because we're entrepreneurs and our attention's pulled in a million different directions. We come home exhausted, and this will be a great opportunity to heal some wounds and build that relationship, restore it, and learn how to love your spouse even greater. Show them how you love. All right. We are backing off the sales training a little bit. I have a confession. I have not been promoting it. We've been having underwhelming attendance. We were getting 15, 20 people every single time. We're pulling like 2 to 5 people. Now it's just not worth it to do it with so little people. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to back down to quarterly. I'm going to try to do a little bit better job of announcing it and promoting it. I haven't been even bringing it up here in the announcements. So if you're interested in sales training, you want to do it, you can go to garagedoorU.com. We have a button there that says sales training. Click on that, and there's a drop down on the form that shows all the different dates. And by the time you hear this podcast, they will be updated on a quarterly basis. Listen, if you have less opportunities right now for whatever reason, making sure you optimize every single one of them is in your best interest. This is an investment, of course. I know it hurts a little bit to take a guy off the road for a day, but the response that I'm getting where people are telling me they're doubling their average ticket rate just by following these systems and processes will pay yourself back in a week or 2, period. And then you got the rest of the time to make additional profit. It's also going to result in better reviews, more reviews, better experience for your customers, more referrals, the whole bit. So I love doing it. Your people that come will love the information they get. It'll change their mindset on how to approach sales. So it's an ethical sales process. We don't teach pressure sales. We don't teach being pushy. We're consultative selling. We're menu selling. We're providing information and allowing our customers to make intelligent decisions off that information. So thank you for letting me get through my announcements. I also want to announce one last thing. I'll probably have her on the podcast every once in a while, and we'll be doing some webinars together. I just hired someone that I am super excited to announce. Today's her first day. Her name's Heidi. She used to be with Power Selling Pros, and she was our coach at Aaron Overhead Doors. And she used to train our CSRs, and she crushed it. and our people love her. So when I found out she was gone, what did I do? I called her. I was trying to get her to do some trainings. Obviously, she's in a contract, so she can't train the same way with the same methods. And I think there's a little non-compete that we can't do the same things. So we're working around some of that stuff to do some other trainings and develop our own training. But we're going to be delivering some value to you guys soon on those things as soon as we get all that worked out and we're not infringing on anything. So that's super exciting. I'm really excited she's going to be in our coaching and consulting department of Markenuity. So with that being said, I want to invite Kathy. Is Nielson,
Hello.
right? Nielsen. Did I pronounce that right?
It is Nielsen. Yep, like the
Nielsen.
Nielsen rating.
Kathy Neilson, you've probably at some point, if you are watching podcasts or listening to podcasts or go to industry events or anything like that in home services, you may have crossed paths with her. She is a subject matter expert on systems and processes, training, education. She's super smart. She is I can say firsthand, and she probably can't, maybe she can. She probably won't want to laugh or accept what I'm saying, but I got so frustrated with ServiceTitan's customer service for some things that should be have been done or being done. I literally hired her to do it. So I guess when you see an opportunity and a company's not filling a void, you can start a business or make it part of your business to support a product that they're developing, and you do a phenomenal job at it. I had
Oh,
her
thank
come
you.
into Aaron Overhead Doors. It was super cool because she looked at our account and she was like, "Oh, you don't have this and this and this turned on, and you got this set up this way, and you should really set it up this way." These are all the things that probably should have been taken care of by Service Titan and providing us the information. She was able to figure all this stuff out in like 30 minutes, and then she even has like a back door to Service Titan where she can kind of work with them or flip some switches and make some stuff happen, which I thought was really cool. And so she helped us fill a void. It was like this was a time where I think they were really struggling on the customer service side years ago, and she came in and helped us when we absolutely needed it. So first, I want to say thank you to that publicly and recognize you for doing that, because as a business owner, sometimes we don't want to pay extra for stuff like that, but if it means getting the job done and having a professional do it and then teach us things that we didn't even know our software could do, I think the value's there and it was definitely worth it. So thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that. And sometimes it's a matter of capacity too, right? It's not that you don't want to pay somebody else to do it, but sometimes you just don't have the capacity to do it yourself. And
Right.
it's more efficient to have someone else do it as well. So,
Agree. Wholeheartedly agree. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your business, how it got started, what you guys do specifically. I know you guys do multiple different things. Share with us a little bit about the services you provide and how you got started.
sure. Well, I'm known across the industry as a chicken lady. And that truly was just a marketing thing. I'm not a marketing person. That is not my gig, but I was at a very fancy professional speakers banquet and someone commented on my gown and my friend said, "Yeah, who knew she could dress like that and have chickens?" I said, "Okay, there's my hook, because no one will remember my name. And if they do remember my name, they will spell it wrong, because that happens all the time." And so that it just grew. I came up through the industry. Prior to the home service industry, I was actually in hunting and shooting, and grew up in Iowa, and I was in manufacturing of hunting and shooting clothing and equipment, and that kind of started going away in this country. Manufacturing did. And so I was looking for another avenue, and one of the people on a big youth hunt board that I ran was a heating and cooling company. And so they asked me to come work for them. They knew my organizational skills and my customer service. And so I came up through the ranks: CSR, dispatcher, office manager, bookkeeper. I then got asked to be the general manager of a heating cooling company in Iowa. And I did that. The owner was pretty non-existent. He was ready to do something else. And so he wasn't around a lot. And I had grown it from about 1.5 million to about 5.5 million, and then tried to buy the company. And the owner and I didn't agree on value, which happens.
Yeah.
So 2 of my technicians bought it. And 1.5 years in, they eliminated my position. And so I'm a process and procedure freak. So I gave them everything I had built, and then I put the word out. I'm known in the industry, and a plumbing company in Texas hired me. So I went down there. I lived in a camper behind a plumbing shop for 1 year. I decided if I was going to move my family. Decided after that year it wasn't the job to move my family for. And while I was there, I had a lot of people calling me to help them do what I had done at Shaw. And when I was GM, we did 5 software conversions in 6 years, which is brutal. And so I got really good at what the software does in this
Yeah.
industry.
You had
And
to.
yeah, and I've been on a lot of them. And so when I went to the plumbing shop in Texas, they were one of the first users of ServiceTitan. And so I got there, and there was stuff that was really jacked up in AR, and I would call ServiceTitan and ask them how to fix it, and they would tell me how to fix it. And then I'd be like, no, that doesn't track for accounting, because I happen to be really good at accounting. And so then I'd call them back and I'd say, well, what if I did this? And they're like, oh, yes, that works. And then, that's some of the things they still teach now. And so I was at a tech training I was doing, teaching them, like you were talking about, how to educate the customer and offer options and communicate. And Aura from ServiceTitan called me and asked me to go help somebody. And that was my first on-site. That was almost 8 years ago, for a ServiceTitan issue. And now I really intended to create a job. I wanted to make 150,000 a year. That was it. That was my goal. And now 8 years later, I have 5 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees. And I ended up creating a company with no intention of doing so. So I visit about 40 shops a year, all over the US and Canada. And a couple on my team do on-sites as well. I've got a couple on my team that are bookkeeper and accountants by trade. So we do bookkeeping for those shops that maybe they haven't grown to the point of needing a full-time, or maybe they have to let somebody go and they want someone in the interim that they don't have to train. I do customer service boot camps. So I do a lot of customer service training. I'm doing one in Texas next week. We do ServiceTitan House Call Pro, Field Edge. We're QuickBooks Pro certified, ServiceTitan certified. So we really try to not just be in one lane, but we just happen to be really, really good at ServiceTitan.
And there's a need.
Yeah. And, ServiceTitan are really amazing at what they do, but a lot of them you talk to have never sat in your seat. And so we really try to approach it. I've sat in all those seats. So when I'm talking to you, or your CSR or your bookkeeper, I'm talking to you as the person having done it.
Yeah.
And so that I think is really the biggest difference.
And my listeners appreciate that. They know that I own a garage door company and that I'm sitting in their seat, right? And
Yeah.
I confess my failures. We talk about my shortcomings, and I teach a lot off of the things that I've failed doing, and I think
Right.
relate to some of the similar things that I struggle with.
Yeah.
And
And my husband does commercial refrigeration. He was a commercial refrigeration tech for years. Now he's a service manager for Walmart for state of Kansas and some in Nebraska. And so I talk commercial really well. And, after 29 years of listening to that, you kind of pick it up. So
100%. So I made some questions
I
Awesome.
don't normally put in a ton of work preparing, but I put in a little work. So
Good,
for my
good.
listeners, I think you should give me a hand clap right now. Like I'm just gonna trust you're doing it. Don't wreck.
Bravo.
Thank you. Y'all don't wreck if you're driving. So here we go. I would like for you to explain to us in a very simple way the core principles of creating an effective operating procedures, SOPs, and how they transform small businesses' daily operations.
So I love SOPs. I speak at a lot of events on how to create SOPs. I have, actually I have it in front of me. I know your audience can't see it, but it's how to create SOPs. I have a
We do
little
put this on YouTube,
cheat
so
sheet.
the
Okay.
watchers will be able to see it.
Awesome. So my personal opinion is every position should have SOPs. And the reason you do it, I call it my hit by a truck theory. So if your payroll person gets hit by a truck at lunch, you still have to do payroll. You can't not.
Right.
And I use payroll a lot in my examples because we all know that's critical, right? A lot of people out there that create procedures always tell you, oh, do the easy ones first. I completely disagree with that because if something happens to somebody, I need to know the critical stuff, not who to call for the copier breaking down.
100%.
I can figure that out, right?
Yeah.
So you always want to have all of those kind of things written down. You also want to test them. And I think what a lot of people fail to do is they have the person that does it test it. But they're going to do some things out of habit, right? Because they do them every time.
Right.
So you need somebody to test it that's never done it before. And let them see, is it complete? Do we have everything? Access to logins and passwords and stuff like that. And granted, you're not going to let everybody have that, but you need to let enough people have access somewhere. When I was GM at Shaw, they had 90-year floods or whatever, 100-year floods. So the levee broke by the shop, the water pours in, it was a foot below the mezzanine for the second level.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we didn't have everything on clouds, right? Which meant our server room was underwater.
Right.
And we had to figure out what to do. So after that, I also created it was like a binder that we could grab at a moment's notice that had everything in there.
It was waterproof.
Yeah, and so we could get at things because the owner drove a jet ski in and got what we could get and shut off a gas valve. But we still had to function. So it just really taught me a lesson that you've got to have those process and procedures. When I left as GM, I had to teach them how to do payroll and some of the things. And the new owner says, gosh, you just wrap this up in a bow. And he obviously was one of my techs. And I said, yeah, I don't know whether I'm supposed to be complimented or pissed off about that because I had to hand you my job. But your employees will be fearful of doing procedures because they are afraid you won't need them. So you have to really help them understand. It gives you the ability to let them do what they're wired for and what they'll be really good at and not have to do the things that take a lot of energy that they're not really geared to do.
Yeah.
So I'm a freak about processes and procedures.
That's good. We talk a lot about that in GDU. We talk a lot about that here on the podcast. So a lot of people have a lot of interest around that and how to do it. I think a lot of conversations right now are being had about utilizing AI to accelerate building SOPs because I think it's such a daunting task for a lot of people who don't have a business or a business administration background to sit down and think through that process and document it in a way that's readable and understandable in a very easy fashion. What are your thoughts on using AI to help you build SOPs?
Well, my opinion is SOPs aren't very wordy or fluffy. And I think AI adds a lot of fluff.
Mhm.
It makes it pretty, but when you sit down to do something, you need to know where to point, where to click, what to enter. And so what I like to do is have the person that does, like, the first thing people are going to do is write down what they do,
Yeah.
right? And then they're going to write down when they do it and why they do it. So they do it because of payroll, they do it because of it books jobs or whatever the reason. And then they're going to list which ones are most critical to least and work on the most critical. When they are actually doing it, I just have them write it down. It doesn't have to be pretty or sexy, or just write down what are they doing,
Like
how
bullet
they're doing it, right? How are they doing it? They're going to ServiceTitan, they're clicking on the call bubble, they're booking a job. Here's how you book a job, or whatever that is. Here's how we do payroll. So I'm doing screenshots, I'm giving instructions. So I like the AI if you want to make it fluffier. I don't know what other word to use, but the thing is they need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they have to make all the procedures. The person that does it makes the procedure.
Yeah,
So
they should.
that administrator doesn't have to
Hopefully
make
they're doing
any
it
of
right.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have somebody type them up to make them uniform.
Where do you suggest hosting all of your SOPs for everyone to easily find them?
Well, you want to host them in a way that everybody can edit them.
Right.
There's several platforms out there that are geared just for that. Sweet Process. There's a bunch of them out there.
We use Monday.com for a lot of
Monday.
stuff, and they even have a functionality like that. You got Trainual that does something similar as well.
Yeah.
Those
Loom is a great one to make videos.
Yes, we do a lot
The
of Loom
thing,
videos for that.
yeah, you got to remember, not everybody's going to learn the same. Some can watch a video and not retain any of it. Some need something they can literally look at on one screen or have it printed out and do the work on another screen. You're going to make me yawn.
I'm trying not to.
I
had a
know, and
beer
you're
for
causing
lunch.
me to.
Yeah, I had a beer for lunch. I normally don't do that, and I'm like, "Whoa, why am I struggling so hard?" And then I realized, like, I drink a beer at lunch.
You did that because I was coming on, didn't you?
I was nervous. No, I'm just kidding. I literally I I I never will drink another beer for lunch again because I'm sitting here and this chair is so comfortable, and just chatting with you feels like super relaxing. I don't know why. And I'm sitting here like, "Oh my god, I'm yawning. I'm fighting yawning over and over." But yeah, it's
I
the beer.
know, I'm an empathetic yawner, you're killing me.
Yeah, sorry.
So I think using one of those processes is great. I mean, if you don't want to, you can use Word and save it as a PDF that they can't edit, and
Yeah.
just have one specific Word place where the person that has the ability to change them can. So
Yeah, yeah.
it can be as fancy or as simple as you want it.
Hey guys, I found something that changed my business and I want to share it with you. We've created packages that have included some of the best products in our industry to offer our service customers. The heart of that package is Stealth Hardware Kit. Stealth Hardware is the quietest hinges on the market. I challenge you to buy at least one of these, test it for yourself. Put it on your truck and design a quiet performance package for your customers willing to pay for a better, smoother running door. Buy your Stealth Hardware Kit at Service Spring, do a search for Quiet Hinge, and then buy that. You can buy a double or single door, 7 or 8 foot tall, and promise you, it'll change your service forever.
Somer USA and Somer Group want to thank you for an incredible year and the trust you've put in them and their products. As you know, Somer places high value on relationships, education, customer service, innovation, and professionalism. And they are grateful to you for your part in the fostering and dissemination of these values. If there is any way Somer can support you in your journey, whether through their products, the values they hold to, or the knowledge Somer has gained through interaction with door dealers across the world, please reach out to the team at your convenience. They are here to serve you. Again, thank you from the entire Somer team. Check them out at somerusa.com. Tell them Ryan sent you.
Next question. We're going to talk about efficiency with software. How can businesses effectively integrate and utilize software like ServiceTitan and QuickBooks to streamline their operations and ensure accurate data management? Emphasizing data management, because good data in is historically good data out. But how do we know that the data going in is right, and how do we get accurate data in?
Well, let's take ServiceTitan, for example. When I look at somebody's account, I can tell if it's not set up correctly just by looking at their dashboard. I can see that they're having bad data. An example is if I go in there and the checks have 100% conversion all the time, that's not true. Would it be great? Yeah, it's not true. So that tells me there's setting issues. If I look and I want to see about callbacks and they don't have any, that's a booking process issue. So, I can tell a lot of process issues when I'm looking at something. I'm kind of a data junkie, so I like really good data. And a great example is, let's say, service and maintenance. I don't want those commingled because I don't want service to inflate maintenance's average ticket, but I don't want maintenance to pull down services average ticket, right? Because like when I ran Shaw, I knew it was $930 for a van to pull out of my parking lot that day. That was my cost starting the day. So I had average ticket expectations set based on obviously my costs. And so I wanted my average ticket for maintenance to be set different than service. But
Right.
again, if you're going to dump that into one pile of data, then how do you know?
Right. That's
So
brilliant. But you also don't want to break out everything individually, because then you have too many individual data sets.
right.
So there's got to
Yeah,
be
you're
a medium, but I wrote that down actually because I think we're going to adopt that. I think the idea of maintenance and service are different.
They are, because service, they called you because they broke a spring or their drawer won't open or it's off track or whatever the case may be. Maintenance is you're just going out and doing whatever you do to maintain it, right? You're checking the rollers, you're checking whatever it is you guys are doing to just maintain it. They didn't call you because they had a problem.
Right. So I'm going to hang out right here in software real quick because I think I've got some questions that could really help some people. And I want to chat about some of these things. When implementing a CRM, or I don't really call ServiceTitan a CRM. I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. It's more like a dispatch software, sales
On
tool
steroids.
on steroids. Yeah. But it doesn't really have like a really full blown good project management functionality. And it doesn't have like a really good like sales pipeline functionality, unless you tell me like, Ryan, you're wrong. It actually does have that, but
Oh, they have the new project dashboard. It's way better.
okay.
The commercial projects and stuff have come a long, long, long ways in the
That's good to
last
know.
year and a half. Yeah.
Good.
And they have the leads thing. I think that still needs some tweaking, but
Yeah. It's really good from the time the phone call comes in or the lead comes in there forward. But we're doing a lot of like sales stuff where we're tracking a pipeline and I can do sales projections off of it and
yeah.
stuff like that. So it doesn't have that capability. But when we're setting up, like, let's use ServiceTitan, for example, because a lot of our listeners use ServiceTitan, but this is applicable to really anything. When we're using, like, ServiceTitan has what's called business units.
Yeah.
What's the proper use of business units? I see some people have departments, some people use it for locations, some people use it for like almost like a job type thing. How should we be using business units?
So business units are how do you want to see data on your dashboard? One of the biggest errors on dashboards is there's only 4 divisions. That's it. And they have a division to match their business units. But then what happens is everything's fractured, right? I can't group anything. I either have to group it all or I have it all fractured. So I always fix that first thing. But so business units, or how do you want to see data? So let's say garage doors, let's say you have install, service, sales, maintenance, but you do commercial and residential. You might have all 4 of those for each, commercial and residential, because you want to be able to see average tickets and things like that. They're going to be different for commercial than residential, right? So how do you want to see data? And then when that goes to your financials, it hits a class. And the biggest thing people think is they have to have as many classes as they have business units. And that's not true. I could have a residential class and a commercial class and not have anything else, and have them like all 4 of each business unit point to the one class. So classes are how do you see financials, business units are how do you want to see data.
Are you connecting in that scenario where you're connecting your business units to classifications? Is that standard integration, or are you using a third-party integrator?
Nope, that's standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So right now we are doing departments, but we're not separating out like subs of those departments. So like right now we do have like, well, we do have like residential, like we have multiple locations. So it's probably very inaccurate for us then, because we've got like Milton location, we have Buford and Buckhead, and then we have screens and commercial. But we also have like residential install or residential door quote, which is general for all locations, right? And so we're able to measure, we're able to pull up that and see how that's performing, but we can't pull it up by location. But it would be really cool for us to be like, hey, I want to see how many door quotes we got, what our closing ratio is in Milton versus Buckhead.
Right.
And you could do
So
if you set up your business. So how many is too many? Like, not really.
No, I've got one customer, I'll bet they have 35 because they have multiple locations.
Yeah.
And they want to see, and I have a lot of people, they'll have multi-trades too. And so, they'll have all the different trades and and some of them might have a particular thing they do that they want to be able to see that separate. And in garage door, I don't have an amazing example, but like in plumbing, they might want to see drain cleaning separate or slab work separate. And they can do that, but then have financially it just go over with everything else. So,
but you could make a custom report that would break down business units and then job types and still get that same data, but you probably couldn't do that for the dashboard.
Correct.
Okay. So the way we have it set up is we have the job types are new door quote, resi repair, commercial repair, maintenance, door screen, motorized screen quote, stuff like that. That is all of our job types. And then business units are Buckhead, Milton, Buford, commercial. And so we kind of generalize there. We're very broad. So our dashboard is kind of everything inclusive, and you can go in and click which ones you don't want to see or whatever. But it would be more detailed and granular on a dashboard perspective if we were to break it down like you said. But if we chose not to, or we're already operating like this, we could go in and create a custom report, like a dashboard per se, almost.
Yeah.
And then do it by business unit and the corresponding job type that you want to measure.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I tell people all the time, none of these ways are wrong. But when I work with people, I want you to see your options and then decide. It's kind of like when you're working with a customer and you educate them on their door options, right? They can go with a regular cheap door, they can go with an insulated door, whatever their options are, and you let them decide. And that's really how we function. If I'm working with somebody, I'm going to show them, here's business units, here's how it works, here's, how you do classes, and then you decide, because it's not wrong either way.
Yeah. I do think it's a bit overwhelming though, because you want to set up your CRM in the best possible way that fits your systems and processes, knowing that you'll have to modify some of them because the software is not going to be customizable to all of your systems and processes. So there might be, a workaround or two, or maybe you just need to change a system or process to streamline it, and that's okay. And I think sometimes we go into it like, I just don't want to lay the foundation out wrong and then have to undo it because we know we got to put all this investment into training our teams and getting them bought into it. Like the buy-in of implementation and using it is 75% of the battle in the beginning. And so if we have to undo it and then redo it and confuse everybody, it makes it more difficult. You get more resistance. So I think that's where some of the frustration comes in at. And someone like you probably could help us get it right in our head because we got to be able to see how we want to do it before we do it.
Right, and I think during onboarding, especially business units, that's hard. It's not explained in a way that makes it super easy to understand. The other thing is, I have all the time people are like, well, we want to do it this way. I'm like, okay, so tell me the reason you want to do it that way. Well, that's what we've always done. There are some things you're going to have to adjust and do different because the software is built the way it's built. And if you want it to work like your old software, then don't switch software.
Right.
So I think, in this case, we were talking about ServiceTitan. One of the beauties of ServiceTitan is the reporting capabilities are fantastic.
Yeah.
But you have to decide what you want to do, but you're going to have to conform when you switch software. It doesn't matter what you go to. There are some things you're just going to have to change the way you do it.
Right. Yeah. And as a software guy, I came from software before starting my door company. I can't tell you how many meetings I was in with the product team because I was on the sales side. Hey, we need this feature. We need this feature. We need this feature. And they're like, why do we need this feature? Well, because this other company has it and they're stealing our customers. And why do we need this? Because we've had 3 requests for it. And why do we need this? And so we're shoving down their throat all this stuff we need. And, I remember one time the founder just stopped me and he's like, Ryan, he said, we cannot build our software for everyone.
Right.
Right? We're going to build it for our prototypical client that we want, and we can make some exceptions to some things. But there are no software. There's no software that's built for every business model, right? So you just got to find the one that works for you. I like that. All right, next. What are the best practices for setting up and maintaining an efficient dispatch system, and how does it contribute to the smooth running of service businesses? And I want to interject real quick. I want to also just say, can we chat about small, medium, and large companies and how they structure CSR and dispatch? And at what point do you need to break those apart? And what are some of the pros and cons of that?
So the biggest thing to keep in mind, a CSR and a dispatcher, how that person is wired is different. So I'm a giant assessment fan. I rep a product called Intermetrics. I've been using it for 20 years. But if you look at a really amazing CSR assessment and a really amazing BSR assessment, they're very different people. And
Right.
CSR, for example, is really wired to want to help people. They want people to have a great experience. They're, have high empathy. A DSR, generally speaking, has a little bit lower empathy. They are more of a results driven person. They're more of a rule follower. And it's the biggest thing is a tech will walk all over a CSR wired person, but not a DSR wired person. And I've
So it really
sat,
doesn't have a lot to do with the customer. It has more to do with the techs calling in and trying to get appointments moved and stuff like that.
because we've all had it. A tech will call and go, well, Joe over there, he's getting all the good calls, right? We've
Funny
all
that you
had
use
that.
the name Joe. I'm gonna make sure he listens to this because I've got a Joe and he likes to move his schedule around and he'll call, and I've told my CSRs, do not That's not, if he's got some good ideas, you can discuss it with him, but we have reasons for doing things the way we do them, right? But he does have good ideas, and we do have to conform a little bit. He is proactive about looking out, and if he's in a certain area and he's got a job, like a service job that's down for tomorrow, and he's 10 minutes away and he's got time, he'll literally call him and be like, "Hey, I'm around the corner from your neighborhood. Can I stop by?" And they're like, "Heck yeah." And so he'll go over there early and fix their door, and it's a great experience for everyone, right? And we should probably be more proactive with that in the office, but it also has to do with like how you're staffed, capacity,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
absolutely. And I've sat in shops and I'll listen to a tech talk to a CSR and they'll leave and I'll be like, man, they just played you. And they're like, what? No. And I'll repeat the conversation. They're like, oh, we did. Because they just want to help and they want them to have this great experience.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes in a small shop, as customer service person and a dispatcher are the same person. Because we haven't grown it big enough to justify having that separate, right? And I've been there. When I started as GM, I actually had one part-time. And by the time I left, I had 3 CSRs and 1 dispatcher. And so I always tell people too, a job is not a task. So a CSR, their job is to answer the phone and book calls. That's it. That's their whole job, right? But when they're not doing that, we give them tasks to do because there's lots of things to get done. And so like when I had grown to have 3 CSRs, I had one girl, she was amazing on the phone. She was such a rock star. And she book calls, but if you had her do anything else, she would screw it up because she'd get interrupted and she'd mess up something and she just couldn't do that switch mentally.
Right.
So she was first on the phone. The next girl was really good on the phone, but she could do other things like outbound maintenances or, do some other things that we needed to do. And then my third gal was decent on the phone, not amazing, but she was detail oriented. So she would also file warranties and, do some of the other detail work, the tasks that needed done. So I think when we're looking for people for those positions, they need to look at what is their natural talent, because they'll be happier if they're working in that lane.
Right.
And kind of rule of thumb is usually about 5 or 6 techs per CSR. That's kind of a service tech. It's kind of a general rule of thumb.
Okay. I need to hire some service techs. All right. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. Last question. This has been so good. I think our audience is going to love this stuff that we've talked
Awesome.
about so far. I think it's closed some gaps and some heads. So, all right, how can small businesses improve internal communication between field and office staff to enhance overall efficiency and customer satisfaction? And again, like my other questions, I'm going down this communication path. I struggle because as a business owner who runs multiple businesses, I will sometimes like be the bottleneck because it takes me a little bit to respond. I'm doing a podcast, I'm in a meeting, I'm in another meeting, whatever. And sometimes like people ask me questions, I'll just fire back a response and that response can be interpreted differently than intended. And so I've got this little saying I'm reminding myself right now, hurry up and slow down because you're going too fast. And when you go too fast, you sometimes cause issues. However, you also need to keep things moving and communication needs to be efficient and precise. So, again, how can small businesses improve internal communication between field and office staff and even leadership and management and office staff and field staff?
Well, I think first off, figure out the platform you want to use. Maybe it's 1 or 2 of them, but don't have 6 different ways they communicate. And so they have to check 6 different platforms. That would be the one thing. The other thing is a lot of times when we're firing off answers, we're not growing them, right? Because I am sure if I looked at an assessment by you, you're highly results driven, right?
Mhm.
You're going to make decisions, move forward. And what happens is people like that, because that was me, right? I'm high D. sometimes we run over everybody else because we're just making decisions. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so what I like to do, I'm going to try to tell the story really quick. I'm going to paraphrase it,
You're good.
but there was a psychology professor at Texas A&M during student orientation, brought the parents together, and she said, so I'm going to tell you a story. When your kids call, ask them, is it an air problem or a water problem? And she said, here's what I need. Okay. And a water problem is you're chilling on the beach, you got your favorite drink, it's really, really hot, like really hot. And you're really thirsty and your drink's empty. And it's going to be a long ways to walk up and get that lemonade, right? And you don't want to go, but you walk up there, you get up there, they're closed. So then you have to walk even further and you're so thirsty. But when you take that big gulp of lemonade, your thirst is forgotten and your journey is forgotten, right? But an air problem is you're chilling in your pool, a 500-pound dude jumps on top of you and you can't breathe. If he doesn't let you up, you will die. So we would do that when my daughter would call from Texas A&M. I'm like, air problem or water problem? She'd be like, water problem. I go, okay, let me know what you decide and how it turns out. But the first time she called me with an air problem, we were in the car heading to Texas. And they do it, my kids do it to me. Like they'll call me and they can hear the stress in my voice and they're like, air or water? And I'm like, water. And they're like, yeah, let me know how that goes. So I did that with employees, but I did it 1, 2, 3, 4. So a level 1 problem is make a decision, let me know how it turns out. A level 2 problem is maybe they need to talk to their peers, another tech, a helper that's with them, whatever, and talk it out. A level 3 problem is they need to talk to their manager, and a level 4 problem is management team will make a decision. So I think that's another great way for communication to happen to empower them. And then when you have your meeting, you say, okay, what were some of your number 1 problems this week and what did you decide and how that turned out, or your number 2 problems? And you talk through them so everybody can learn from them, but they're not constantly interrupting everybody about that. And when you have that DSR, CSR, the beauty is the DSR is the technician contact. So the CSR isn't on the phone with a technician and the phone's ringing, not getting answered to their customer.
That's the best explanation I've ever heard, because I've been having this conversation for years and I've never heard anybody explain it that way, but that builds so much more value and understanding for me and makes 1000% sense. No one has been able to convince me of the idea of hiring a dispatch person until now. Like that was
That's
the
awesome.
best explanation. Yeah. So
Well,
if
and
people go ahead.
my CSRs would freak out because if I'm walking down the rows and they're on the phone with a tech, because the conversation's like, hey, what's for lunch? What are you doing? I hung up the phone. They would all freak out. And I'm like, no, we are here to answer the phone and book calls for customers. We're not, and I'm not saying we can't be friends, but we got to answer the phone.
Yeah. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, hire you, whatever, how do they do that?
They can go to my website. It's chickenladyspeaks.com, and there's a contact us page right there, and we get back to you right away. There's a phone number on there as well. That's the easiest way to contact us, and then we'll have a discovery call and see how we can best serve.
Love it. And I can tell you firsthand, I've hired her years ago. She's efficient. She knows her stuff. She gets it done. And I would not recommend her or have her on the podcast if I didn't think she'd be a good recommendation. So check her out. Catherine, so thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know your time's super valuable. So I wanted to make Kathy, sorry, I called you Catherine. Your full name's Catherine.
My full name's Catherine. It's fine. Only my mother called me that.
I don't even know where I got that from. Maybe your website. I don't know. I had it down as Catherine earlier, and I changed it to Kathy, and I just called you Catherine. I don't know where that came from. All right. So anyway, thank you so much. I know your time's valuable. Appreciate you. Guys in the field, you're listening to this. You got some great nuggets today. I know
chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets. I love that. That's great. I love that. I love the loop that just got closed for me for dispatch. I think that's very valuable. I love that the motivation. I need to hire 5 service guys for every 1 CSR. I think that's a great measuring tool, and so many good nuggets here. Kathy, you made the podcast better today. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. You got anything you want to say?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I really hope you'll have me as a speaker in Puerto Rico when I can meet you all there.
Would love that. All right, guys, be safe, have fun, be a great leader, and hit me up if you have any questions, need me, or just want to chat. Take care.